Hello, Women of the Channel Leadership Network. I'm Jackie Rives, your community leader, and welcome to another Woman of the Week. This week, I am very excited to introduce you to JuliAn Coy, consulting principal with RSM and a member of our exchange board. Hi, JuliAn. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Hi, Jackie. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, we're super excited to get to know you and celebrate you as our Woman of the Week. So let's start out with some of those icebreaker questions.
Okay.
Where do you live and where did you grow up, if that's different?
I currently live in Scottsdale, Arizona. I spent the last 30 years in Seattle, Washington, and I was born and raised in Maysville, Kentucky.
Very cool. So a little bit of around. Okay. What is a little known fact about you that you're willing to share with us?
I grew up on a tobacco and dairy farm in Kentucky, and I started flying the crop duster when I was 14 when my papa got sick. So what brought me from Maysville, Kentucky to Seattle, Washington was a flight school scholarship. And then I met my husband my senior year of college. Didn't want to go into the military and continue my pilot dreams, and the rest is history.
That is pretty cool. People just surprise me. I never know what I'm going to expect, but it's never whatever I'm going to think it is. So yeah, that's a great fun fact. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, tell me a little bit about your career path and how you reached the position that you're in today.
Yeah, no problem. So my birthday is July 24th, and it's the same day as Amelia Earhart. So from a very early age, I knew I was going to be a pilot. I did all my book reports in elementary school on Amelia Earhart. I knew everything about Amelia Earhart. I was born and dusted. My whole family knew I was going to be a pilot. When I got my pilot's license, when I was 17 years old officially, it was during Desert Storm, and my flight instructor told me that, particularly as a woman, I would never see the inside of a cockpit if I was to join the military during an active war period. I would have to get in line, is what I was told. And so Dennis Adler, as much of a backhanded compliment it was actually a life-changing conversation, because he taught me how to get financial aid and apply for college because I was in a flight school. And so I applied to the University of Washington with his help, got in, and he said, get a business degree. You can do anything with a business degree. So I graduated from the Foster School of Business at the University of Washington with a business degree. I met my husband my senior year in the very last class I was there. And then I didn't want to join the military and leave him.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. So in the position that you're in today, how is that? Yeah. How is that different than, because you started out in flight?
Yeah. So at the University of Washington, firms, public accounting and consulting firms were coming and recruiting. Arthur Andersen was my very first job. Arthur Andersen recruited me as a campus recruit associate, and I spent the first 10 years of my career in finance and accounting roles. What happened, though, I was always friends with the technology department. I was always translating geek speak from accounting language into technology understood language. And so after I had my son, I decided that accounting and finance wasn't fulfilling to me anymore. When it was time to return to work, I had quit my job as a vice president at Washington Mutual Bank. And so I was unemployed. Thought I was going to be a full-time mom, decided that wasn't going to be the case. And so I applied blindly to a Craigslist ad for a 11-employee SMB cloud technologies MSP company. And
Wow.
that was a life-changing event. My whole family thought I was crazy. They thought I was going through a midlife crisis. My paychecks were going to bounce. What was I doing? All the things. But I started as an entry-level IT project manager, and they taught me everything about technology that I needed to understand about the cloud, about managed services, about ERP, implementations, integrations, application development, all the skill set. And 8 years later, I was an equity owner in that company that
Wow.
today my larger firm, RSM, acquired. So,
Wow.
yeah, that's my story.
Well, let's dig into that some. Have you ever questioned your abilities and qualifications? And if so, how did you overcome that challenge?
Yeah, I mean, I think imposter syndrome is something real that as women we all deal with all the time, and we have to question like how courageous we really want to be. But one thing I would definitely say I am is courageous. And Jackie, most people stop at no, and I that's literally where my challenge starts. When I hear no, I'm like, okay, I'm going to change that to a yes. And so I think I think stepping back from being a vice president in a corner office at a large bank that's now JP Morgan, it was acquired by JP Morgan,
Hmm.
to start in a cubicle as an IT project manager is super humbling. But at the end of the day, I just kept remembering a quote, which is a bird sitting on a tree is never afraid of the branch breaking because her trust is not on the branch, but it's on its own wings. And so I always realized I could fly anywhere I needed to fly, literally and figuratively. So I was never afraid of failing. I knew I would be just fine.
I love that quote. And yes, you are uniquely qualified on both aspects of it. Um, I feel like you've brought some up, but still want to ask, a little bit more about some experiences or transformational moments that you've had in your life.
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest transformational moments, other than going from finance to technology, was when I approached the two co-founding partners of the former MSP. And I wanted to talk to the gentleman about exit strategy. What was our exit strategy going to be? It was the three of us on the executive leadership team. And at that time, they weren't interested in starting to discuss exit strategy. They weren't interested in discussing some of the things that we probably should have been discussing at that point in time. And so I gave the co-founding partners notice, and I left on excellent terms. I've never burned a bridge in my life, and you'll see why in a second. And I went to PwC, a Big Four public accounting firm, for 3 years. So during my contractual 3-year buyout from the cloud MSP company, I had agreed to remain non-competitive against my former consulting company. As soon as I got my final buyout, I went on the internet, on LinkedIn. I found who the number one MSP in that particular space was at the time. I blindly reached out to the highest level I could find on LinkedIn and asked if they needed a West Coast leader of that practice. I was hired by my current firm 5 weeks later, and 21 days after I started, I flew to Chicago and I pitched to the board of directors the acquisition of my former company. So I ended up being the exit strategy that the boys didn't want to believe and follow me. So it kind of went full circle because the co-founding partners were my first believers and took a finance and accounting executive and turned her into a technology executive. But at the end, when it was time for them to sell their company, they needed an exit strategy and they became dependent on me.
Wow. That is definitely full circle. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
My best friend is so cute. She tries to explain to people what I do for a living, and I do a lot of mergers and acquisitions of technology companies. And so I heard her the other day, Jackie, she said, "Do you know that movie Pretty Woman?" And she says, and she goes, and Richard Gere in the movie? Yeah, JuliAn does what Richard Gere does. And it made me laugh so hard because
That's so funny.
When you ask people if they know the movie Pretty Woman, they're thinking, oh, JuliAn's a high-end escort. That's fantastic.
Well, she made it very relatable.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Okay. So I already feel like I know some of this answer, but how do you differentiate yourself?
I think that I have a very authentic brand and I've had it throughout my entire career. I've never been anybody else except exactly who I am because everybody else is taken. And so I shoot it very direct, very straight. I have a very dry sense of humor. I keep it light most of the time, but I'm very focused and I'm always working towards whatever the goal is for my team. So I think with that comes just an energy that helps lead influence. And so my teams, they trust in me and I trust in them. And whatever it is that we're embarking down, a new product launch, a new acquisition, a new private equity channel strategy, a new MSP, whatever it may be, that I feel like I bring it with energy and it helps influence.
I can definitely see that, especially with your no is a challenge. So that is definitely sticking in my head. So when I see you, I'm gonna know like no's a challenge for her. So careful what you say. I love it.
Yeah.
JuliAn, thank you so much for spending some time with me today and allowing our community members to get to know you better, hear your insights. And a little about your journey and celebrating you as our Woman of the Week.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Here we grow.
Here we grow. All right, community members, please comment, share your insights. We don't want the conversation to ever stop. So let's continue it and celebrate JuliAn as our Woman of the Week. So until next time, happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.